Hi, I'm David, and in this lesson, we're going to go over our hardware recommendations for this course. We'll be covering our overall goals for your hardware kit, as well as everything you need to know in the context of this course about computers, cameras, lighting, audio, and some extras. Now, before we start, I want to make the point that almost all of you can probably get started with what you have already. You shouldn't need to spend a lot of money to get started. You'll notice that we call these recommendations and not requirements. But these recommendations are important because they tie into our goals. Not just our goals for this lesson, but our goals for the entire course, which is to make you a more effective presenter in video meetings. So whether you're using this course for basic stuff like backgrounds, lower thirds, or even more advanced things like moving yourself so that you can put your PowerPoint behind you and present, following the recommendations in today's course, in this lesson, will help you look better, sound better, and have a better experience, control your elements better as you do so. With that, let's jump into our first element, the computer. Now, first off, I know there's a lot of Mac people out there, and this is like everything else. The software we're using is primarily developed for PC, but there is a Mac version. It's just a little bit behind in features. But everything we're going to cover in this course will apply equally to both, so you can use your Mac. If there is a difference, we'll be sure to note it. Next, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, hey, if I use my phone or my tablet for my video meetings, can I use it for the techniques in this course? Unfortunately not. We're using software that really needs to run on an actual computer. So how powerful of a system do you need to run all this? The good news is you don't need that powerful of a system. For the non-techie, non-computer people out there, let me just say if you have an entry-level system, a $400 computer from a few years ago, it'll probably be okay. Might struggle a little, but it should be okay. If you have a mid-range system, you spent $600, $700, again, within the last 2 or 3 years, you're going to be fine. That's basically what I'm running. If you have a high-end system, a $1,000, $2,000 system, you really don't even need all that. For the more technical people out there, you don't need the current generation of CPU, or even the generation before that. 2 generations ago is fine. You don't need a lot of RAM, a decent graphics card, you don't need a super powerful graphics card. As far as whether you can use a laptop, it's just like everything else. Laptops tend to be a little less powerful than desktops, but if you have a super high-end expensive laptop that has a lot of power, it might be better than my desktop. It just depends on whether it has the horsepower to do it. If you have, again, an old entry-level, affordability-based laptop from several years ago, you might run into trouble. If you have a newer high-end laptop, you're going to be just fine. Now, my final point on computers is probably one of the most important tips of this entire lesson. Now, I said at the beginning, I'm not going to ask you to spend any money, but as you follow these recommendations, it'll improve your experience. This would be the first thing, if you are going to improve your experience, this would be the first spend that I suggest, and that is to get a second monitor. Whether you're on a desktop or a laptop, it really helps when virtually presenting to have 2 screens. Now, I know if you've never worked with 2 monitors, it's a little daunting. Do we have 2 computers? Do we use a different mouse to control what's on each screen? How does it work? It's actually very simple. Whether you have a laptop or a desktop, you can just plug in a second monitor and it acts as an extension of your first monitor. You just really have one big monitor with a nice divider. You could take a window, your video window, whatever video client you're on, Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever competitor, and just drag it from one to the other. It's just one computer. The result is it really lets you control what you're doing better. You can have the video window in one screen, and what you're sharing, what you're presenting, your controlling software on the other screen. It helps you to be a master of what you're presenting. So moving on to cameras. Again, you can start with what you have, but you can certainly improve your experience. One thing that people really run into issues with is embedded cameras. A lot of laptops, some all-in-one computers, monitors have a little webcam just stuck right in the monitor. Now, I'm sure there are some models that are really amazing. In general, they tend to not be that good quality. You look soft, you look blurry, you look dim in them. You don't look good. We want you to look good. So again, something to put on your wish list, your to-do list to improve your experience is to get an external webcam. There's the common brands, they're all very good. We're not going to recommend one over the other, but we will say getting an external webcam generally will improve your experience. Now, there are other camera options to provide an even higher level of experience, but for the purpose of this course and to keep it affordable, a webcam will really hit that bar of quality that you're looking for to get started. Next is lighting. Now, you don't have to spend a lot of money on it, but you can't completely neglect it. Most of it really is about positioning, which we'll get into later in the course. But for the purpose of lighting, I started off with, honestly, a bare bulb above my head. It wasn't great, but it did the job. Now I have two of those box soft lights that were actually very, very affordable, found them on Amazon. Much better experience. Again, it's a journey. Most of this one we're going to cover in technique of how to set up your lights, but start with what you have and put it on your wish list. Next is audio. As you see here, I have a pretty nice looking external fancy microphone because I'm at this place on my journey. I didn't start with this. A typical headset will do you fine. Now, a lot of people will ask, what's better, the over-the-ears headset or the earbuds or which kind of headset? I see headsets as clothing. It's something you wear. It is a very personal choice. The quality tends to be similar on all of them at the price range. It's just what you're comfortable with. And again, this isn't a big spend. $30, $40 headsets sound really good. $200, $300 headsets sound amazing, but it's just wherever you are in your journey. One thing to be careful with audio is right now you see I have an open mic and I'm not wearing headsets. So if I was in a video meeting, there would be a chance that if someone else was speaking, their voice could come through my speakers and into my mic and echo back at them. Now, a lot of these software solutions, they have echo cancellation, so that shouldn't happen, but sometimes it happens. I really advise some sort of, when I'm in a meeting, I usually have earpieces in my ear so that no external sounds will get into the microphone. And our last topic is what I think of as the fun stuff, the extras. Something to keep in mind when we talk about these extras. This whole process has basically been turning our home offices into a hybrid of home office and home studio. Some people wind up with a full-blown home studio. I know people who have audio mixers and all sorts of fancy equipment just to do this. Some of us get a decent webcam, get some good lightings, and we're fine. But these extras can really make the difference from feeling less like someone on a video call and more like a virtual presenter. The first one we're going to talk about is the green screen. Green screens are actually really simple. Behind me, I have a pretty large green screen. I don't think it cost me more than 50 bucks with a big shower curtain thing to hang it on Amazon. And most of you probably don't need such a big one. I do a lot of stand-up presentations, so I needed a larger one. Not that hard to get, not that hard to install, and then you have control over your backgrounds and everything else. You can use a lot of the stuff in this course without a green screen, the lower thirds, the graphics, but to get the backgrounds going, you do need the green screen. But again, you don't have to spend a lot of money. Originally, I just painted the wall behind me and that worked fine for a while. Another fun extra that feels like a home studio kind of thing is acoustic treatments. Those foam pads you put on your wall. I actually need them. That's the next thing on my personal wish list. I sound a little hollow. I sound a little bassy. It's because this room is echoey. That will improve my experience. That'll make me a better presenter. That'll make me sound a little better. So acoustic baffling, again, not a necessity. I don't have it yet, but a cool thing to consider. And finally, keep in mind, being a great presenter isn't just about looking good and sounding good. You want to be smooth when you're using the techniques that you learn in this course. If you want to bring up a lower third, you don't want to say, hold on a second, let me find the button. How do I, oh right, there it is. You just want things to naturally happen. You want to be smooth when you present. So one way to do that is to use tools that are designed to help you do that. One great one is, this is one I have. This is a little pricey. It's called the Stream Deck, and you can program all of these buttons. You can make folders in the buttons that have more buttons, so it's infinite buttons, and they can bring up your lower third, they can change your scenes, they can do anything you need to do in your presentation. There's also a software app called Touch Portal, which goes on your phone, which does basically exactly the same thing, lets you make buttons and control everything from your phone without having to buy the device, which is pretty nice. Okay, so that covers our goals for creating our hardware kit, everything we need to know for this course about computers, cameras, lighting, audio, and extras. See you in the next lesson.